Wanted to mention the Spellhold Modern 1K at the top of the video here. If you are interested in more information about it, you can find it in the description of this video. Hello and welcome back to another round of Tuesday Night Legacy, where we showcase Magic's most powerful formats. My name is Eugene and I'll be your commentator for this round 1 from May 6th. This is actually going to be one of our Pauper matches. Tonight we have Javiv on the right playing his own brew called Heroic Flyers. So this is kind of like the heroic deck where he has a bunch of creatures that have the heroic ability that put a +1/+1 counter on his creatures when they come into play. Or not when they come into play, but when they're targeted by spells, and back that up by loading them up with things like Cartouche of Solidarity and Ethereal Armor, making them huge creatures and going all in, Voltroning up one of your creatures and attacking for big. He's also added the core Skyfisher for maximum buyback value so that he can bring back his Cartouche to hand or bring the Dawnbringer Cleric back to hand or even the Thraben Inspector and be able to replay these things to get even more value out of them in mid and late game. On the left, we have Steven playing his Gruul Tron list. So, of course, this is abusing the mechanic of the Urza lands that if you get one of each of these in play, they tap for a total of 7 mana when tapping the 3 lands together. The Mind Tapping for 2, Power Plant for 2, and the Tower for 3. And he is going to put this into huge creatures like the Crusher and the Rune Processor. He also has a Foundry Inspector that's allowing him to cast all of these 1 mana and 2 mana artifacts for super cheap. This is abused with this card specifically, the Thancred Marauder, allowing him to gain a ton of life while cycling through all of these chromatic spheres and stars, drawing extra cards, and then hoping to end the game by changing his mana into red and then casting Rolling Thunder for a huge amount of damage. So it's big mana versus White Weenie. Let's see who gets there. Oh, I forgot to mention at the top of the video, we actually didn't get round or game 1, and Steven was able to take that one, so we are here in game 2. We see Javiv firing off this Thraben Inspector here. Steven waving his hands around. Thraben Inspector, of course, making that clue token. I believe Steven is actually describing what the Tron lands do. So he fires off an expedition map, allowing him to go and get another one of any land in his deck. So he can go and assemble his Tron. If he has 2 pieces in an expedition map, then he can have all 3 and be tapping for 7 mana by turn 2. Or turn 3, excuse me. Instead of another Urza land, Steven fires off or plays this Cave of Temptation, which can allow him to filter his lands into a different color. I shortcutted the searching there, so he went and got an Urza's Tower and passed the turn. Over to Javiv with 3 lands in play. Trying to decide what the best course of action is here. Going to play that core Skyfisher, which is of course going to bounce a permanent that he controls. It can be any permanent, so he can bounce a land if he really wants to. But he's going to bounce that Thraben Inspector and redeploy it, so he has another clue. He did pop his clue last turn, so that small green die to the right of his arm is the indication of the clue token in play. We see Steven paying 2 mana here to get 2 chromatic items in play. There you go, Steven. Passing it right back. So once you get a bunch of these stars and spheres in play, you can continue to just use the mana created by the first one to kind of pay for the second one, and so on and so forth, drawing cards and cycling through. So they're a little bit like a bauble in that aspect, that it just is free card draw later in the game. Doesn't really replace, but it does filter really well, so you can also use these much later in the game if he keeps them around to get that 2 red mana for the Rolling Thunder. We're seeing a Cartouche of Solidarity come down on Javiv's side. This creating a 1/1 creature. He popped his other clue already. And this gives the creature +1/+1 in first strike. Now this is not a heroic creature that he's attached it to, the Core Skyfisher, so it just gets a normal bonus. So it is a 3/4 flyer, first strike, attacking in the air. Still a pretty good creature, no matter how you slice it. We see Steven doing exactly what I was talking about earlier. Cycling through those lands, getting mana, putting new ones in play. A 4th artifact being cycled. And I believe that is Urza's Tower. So not quite the right Urza land that he wanted to see. And a 5th chromatic item for the turn. I believe that was 3 chromatic stars and 2 chromatic spheres. So seeing a lot of those off the top of the deck. Pass it back. So Steven has gone through a lot of cycling. He's drawing a lot of cards, but he doesn't really have a way to defend himself right now against these flying creatures low to the ground. The Thraben Inspector and the Core Skyfisher. Ooh, we're seeing a ethereal armor being deployed there. That's going to make a big difference. So ethereal armor is going to give +1/+1 in first strike. Well, first +1/+1 for each enchantment he controls. So right now he only has the one other enchantment, so it's only giving +2/+2, and it has double first strike, which isn't actually a thing. Once a creature has the static ability first strike, it does not matter how many times it is assigned first strike. But it will deal its damage first if it ever has to come to combat. Although I think looking at Steven's list, he doesn't have any flying creatures. Steven rejoicing here that he found the Urza's Mine. So his Tron lands are now all online. So each of them tapping for 2 to 3 mana apiece. He's cycling some mana here to get the Fangren Marauder into play. This costing 6, it's 5/5. Waited to cycle his Chromatic Star there, or his Chromatic Sphere. Gaining 5 life when it goes to the graveyard. Getting to draw a card, not too bad. Playing another Chromatic Star, getting another 5 life, so he's gained 10 life for the turn. Plays a Relic of Progenitus, and now he's out of mana. The Relic, mainboard Relic, being pretty useful because he's exiling cards out of his opponent's graveyard, which fuels the Rune Processor. Being able to... Oh, this has a keyword ability. I don't remember what it is. It's not on this card. But it can take a card from exile, put it back in their graveyard, and you can gain 5 life from that Enter the Battlefield effect. Although the only problem is here, Javiv doesn't have any cards in the graveyard. Everything that he's played is either a land, a creature, or an enchantment. So everything's still on the field. Deploys a second Ethereal Armor, so he's getting a stacked ability now. There are 3 enchantments in play, so each of those Ethereal Armor are getting +3/+3, and then the Cartouche. So that's +7/+7, plus it being a 2/3. So that's 9 damage in the air. So it's a good thing Steven's gaining all that life. He's going to need it to negate this huge Core Skyfisher that's attacking each turn. I believe this is an Ulamog's Crusher that has been deployed. So not only is this a big 8/8, but it also has that horrible Annihilator text. Whenever it attacks, your opponent has to sacrifice 2 permanents before declaring blockers. The Crusher can quickly run your opponent out of resources, even if they can somehow deal with the 8 damage that's coming across each turn. The last card that Steven played here was the Foundry Inspector, making all of his artifacts cost 1 less. So all those chromatic spheres and stars are now just like free cycle effects, or at least you can get them into play for free. You still have to pay 1 to actually sacrifice them to get the mana. See Javiv play Basic Plains, pretty much the only land that he needs. Oh, and this is one of the heroic cards. This is the Laguna Band Trailblazer. So just a huge bud, a 0/4 for 1 mana. But when you start just loading it up with all sorts of enchantments or instant speed effects, the target can grow really, really fast. We see Steven go for a Golden Egg here, getting to draw a card when it comes into play. And that can do a couple things. It can gain him some life, or it can filter for mana, helping to either get another Fangren Marauder in play or do that Rolling Thunder. We see him gaining 3 life here, though. So that's going to gain him a total of 15 life this turn. That Golden Egg getting 10 life, and the Relic of Progenitus getting 5 life from the first Marauder. We're seeing attacks, having to sacrifice 2 planes and then blocking these 2 creatures. Javiv kind of deciding what he needs to do here. Looks like he's pretty flooded on lands. Putting down a Core Skyfisher, which is going to bounce the Cartouche. It's going to shrink it a little bit, but he's going to redeploy the Cartouche right back on the same Skyfisher, but this does get him an extra blocker for next turn. That little 1/1. I think it has Vigilance. It does. It doesn't really matter. It's a really good way to block an 8/8 without trample. Javiv's still trying to decide if it's a good idea to attack or not. He can actually kill this Ulamog's Crusher, and since the Crusher has to attack each turn of Fable, having the 9/10 first strike flyer is going to be able to block that with ease. Although he is going to lose 2 more permanents before damage is dealt. So 2 more planes to the bin. Blocks it, and at least it's out of here now. And you can safely attack in the air. Gosh, with all of that life being gained, I can't believe that Steven's only at 18. I feel like he's gained 25 life this game. So counting up, I think they're trying to make sure that the numbers are right here on the Core Skyfisher. Turning it sideways. Ooh, Steven's got a play here. Filtering some mana. Oh, he plays his Moment's Peace. Moment's Peace, a fun fog effect. 2 mana, prevent all combat damage, and then it also has flashback, so you can cast it from the grave as well. So 2 fog effects for 1 card, pretty good, especially in Pauper. See another Golden Egg, gaining another 10 life, putting Steven to 28. For some reason he's got himself at 31. Oh, 3 life, the Golden Egg, of course. It gains 3 life as well. We see the 2 Marauders come in and attack, and Steven actually has to sacrifice one of them due to the Celestial Flare combat effect. A great card to get around things like Hexproof, targeting the player instead of the creature. But in this case, you know, if there was just 2 high-value targets attacking, make them choose between one of them. So this was best case scenario for Javiv to fire that off. See another Core Skyfisher come down, bouncing the Cartouche again, I believe. So one of the warriors was blocked the Fangren Marauder, and did it again. We see a 3rd Marauder deployed from Steven for the game. I'm not entirely certain what's in Javiv's hand. I think he forgot to untap for the turn. Oh, Javiv asking about Moment's Peace. It in fact can be cast from the graveyard. And Javiv decides that it's not really worth attacking, because if it's just going to get fogged anyways, and then he's going to take the crack back for 13, it's not great. Decides to attack with the 2/2/3 flyers, because it is not profitable to Steven to attack with everything. He's only going to deal a little bit of damage, and then he's going to start losing his board. Or at least that's what Javiv hopes is going to happen. Steven counting all of this mana that he can't do anything with, and decides to go all out. He's going to lose his Marauder, but he is going to deal 8 damage in the meantime, dropping Javiv to 12. But it's not going to be the best strategy. But I guess he doesn't have anything else he can do. He's going to start to die each turn to this 4 damage from the flyers if Javiv just keeps up his mana to make sure that he can't, or keep up that 1 creature, I mean. Yep, another 4 damage flying, and just passes it back. Not worth it to do anything else. Steven not exactly happy with whatever those two cards are. He's had those same two cards in the hand for the last, I think, 3 turns, and hasn't been able to deploy them. Sends a Rune Processor down. Unfortunately, this is just going to be a 7-mana 7/8 only. It's not going to get him the 5 life because there are no cards in exile for Steven to put back into the graveyard from his opponent's pile. So he loses his last Fangren Marauder and gets to deal 3 damage with his Foundry Inspector, putting Javiv down to 9. Rune Processor still not big enough to kill this enormous Core Skyfisher. Slightly ironic. Ooh, what's that? That was a Piercing Ray. Exiling target tapped creature. Getting that Inspector out of there for 2 mana. Pretty good removal spell. That was odd. Steven just attacked into the 9/8 or the 9/10 with his 7/8. And with nothing else open, we see Javiv go for full attacks. Steven having to deploy that Moment's Peace, or else he dies. We see a expedition map off the top there, looking for something specific. Goes and gets a tap land. Highland Forest. Oh, man. Oh, no. Oh, Steven had 2 Rolling Thunders in his hand, but he didn't have access to 2 red mana, so he needed that Highland Forest. He doesn't have it. That's his only other red source, and Rolling Thunder costs 2 red. So he must have been sitting on those for the whole game, and he had no way to just finish the game. Well, that's a game up for Javiv, so we are here in Game 3 of Round 1. Seeing the Akroan Skyguard deployed here, the 1/1 Flying Heroic, and a Thraben Inspector. Steven with a Golden Egg and a Foundry Inspector, making everything cost less. It looks like he's already got Tron. No, he's missing... No, he's got it. Yeah, he's got all of it. So we see another Golden Egg. Drawing some cards. And with this mana reduction, this is seeing a lot of stuff here. Spare Supplies coming down. Getting to draw a card when it enters the battlefield. Wow, Steven really had quite a bit of stuff to do there. 4 extra artifacts played. This Skyguard can attack now. Since it is Flyer, we see an Ethereal Armor deployed. Gets a +1/+1 counter, and it's a +1/+1 from the Ethereal Armor. So it's coming across for 3. Passing it back, nothing else to do. So he's got access to 9 mana right now. Gonna start cycling through some more cards. Doesn't have access to any green mana. Oh, it's that that expedition map is gonna set him up. What is he gonna grab? Goes for the Cave. Wants to make sure that he can change his mana into any color that he needs, either green or red. So he might have a Marauder, and probably can deploy it right now. That's 5 mana. Oh, but he's already played a land for turn, so... Just sends 3 across the board. Javiv says, I'd rather not trade, or get rid of it at this point. So he goes to his turn. Oh, he accidentally used that Piercing Ray as an instant. Should have cast it on his turn. Mild mistakes here and there. Oh, they might have realized it, actually. Yeah, I think they did. So Javiv tapping his mana correctly for his turn, and then deploying the Laguna Band Trailblazer for 1 mana. Attacks for as much as he can, and passes the turn. So we see Steven changing... Oh no, I think he just tapped the Cave so that you could play this Ulamog's Crusher. So this big 8/8 boy, pretty scary, especially in Pauper. There's several ways to answer it, but not a ton of clean answers, especially in white. I mean, he's got that piercing ray, but he would have to be attacked by it first and get that annihilator effect. So just attacking in the air for 3, passing it back, hoping that he can close out this game in 3 turns. And we see Steven deploy a mine. So he's got just so much mana here. 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 12. 12 colorless mana if he wants to. Decides to sack the Laguna Band. He's thinking about the other thing he wants to sacrifice. Gets rid of the Inspector. Decides to just take the damage right to the chin. 8 damage, what does it matter? Steven doing some shenanigans here. Oh, he's got the Rolling Thunder. So using that Rolling Thunder, he's going to deal more than 9 damage worth of health, and Steven's going to take the match on this one. So both decks performing well in this match, but as we saw, Gruul Tron just kind of going over the top with a big mana burn spell. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed that video. If you are inspired by the deck lists that you saw, they are both in the description of this video below, so go ahead and check them out. And if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to the channel so you can stay up to date on all the cool decks that are playing against each other in our meta. Thanks as always to Spellhold Games for allowing us to record in their space. We would not exist without you. Finally, the next video on our channel is going to be Black, White, Death, and Taxes versus a stock Modern Elementals list. Stick around and check it out.